Hey, before we get in this episode, can you do us a favor? Will you go ahead and subscribe to the channel?
Will you ring that notification bell?
And if you would, give this video a like. Well, enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's get to the episode.
Let's talk developmentally speaking, glow up, and connecting through wrestling.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty,
And I'm Brian.
and on today's episode of Connecting Through Wrestling, we have Rudy Boy Gonzalez. Rudy, how's it going?
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good.
Happy New Year, by the way. Happy New Year.
Thank
Yeah,
you. You
absolutely.
too.
Thanks. Happy New Year to you. We're doing great. Absolute honor to have you on, sir. And I'm going to start off this show like I start off almost every single one of them with the same question. What made you want to get into professional wrestling?
Tully Blanchard and Wahoo McDaniel. Tully Blanchard, Wahoo McDaniel, Eddie Mansfield, and Scott Casey. Um, I saw their matches. The first match I saw actually ever was Wahoo McDaniel and Thunderbolt Patterson. I went with my dad to a wrestling show back when I was like 9, 10 years old, and I really didn't care for it. I wasn't a wrestling fan when I grew up. My dad would watch it late at night, and here in San Antonio, and I just, I'd sit and watch with them on occasion, but not very often. And so uh, of winter and or fall and spring, the Christmas break for for college, and so he suggested I go train there during that break until I go back to school. So I did, and that's when I met Tully. Tully was a big time quarterback here in San Antonio. He would, when I was growing up, it was Tully Blanchard and Tommy Kramer, and Tommy went on to play for the Vikings, I believe. And so, Joe Blanchard was his dad, and so Tully was here. He was in the office, and so looking back, Tully was actually the referee of those shows that me and my dad would, that my dad took me to. So, kind of like full circle, and so there I am. So I went to train there, and Joe Blanchard knew what I would, that I was supposed to go back to college. So he asked, they came in during training one day and asked if I wanted to make a couple of extra bucks, and so I said sure. So my job was to go help the guy that did the ring and help him set it up in Corpus Christi, Texas, and come home. So I did, and so that was a Thursday night, and I was supposed to go back to school Sunday with a bunch of guys from San Antonio. So Thursday night, I go to Corpus Christi, Texas. I helped the ring up. The matches are going on, and they had like Scott Case and Eddie Mansfield. They had Dick Slater. They had Manny Fernandez. I don't know if Manny was here yet. I remember Terry Funk, and then the main event was Wahoo and Tully. And so the other matches, I'm not knocking nobody, but the other matches were good. But Tully and Wahoo was the main event, and that's what caught my attention. Just so up to that point, wrestling was to me, you know, dumb. It was, you know, whatever guys say now. It was fake. It wasn't real. It was. But then Wahoo and Telly go out there and they're beating the heck out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, chops, and it was brutal. And so in the back of my head, I'm like, this can't be. This can't be fake. This can't be theater. This can't. This These guys are really pissing at each other. And so that caught my attention. And so then the next day, they asked me to help with the ring again, which was the next day. I got to some small town, Burnett, Texas, or something. So I helped. That was Thursday. That was then I helped Friday. Then I helped Saturday, and Sunday was a big show in San Antonio. And so I snuck in the back door. I was supposed to be gone by then. So I snuck in the back door, went to the top of the arena, and watched the matches. And so on the way home from that to the next morning, which is Monday morning, I made my decision that I was going to take a look into this, and so I knew. So I was going to college on a football scholarship. I'm 5'8". I'm 170 something pounds. I'm not going to make it to the NFL. I already knew that. But uh, Tully was 5'10", and I don't know. I guess he was two something, 210 or so. I don't know. Um, so I looked a little bit more like the wrestlers, but not a whole lot. But I mean, I really wasn't. I didn't want to get into to the wrestling part because I didn't want to get in the ring with Wahoo and get the heck beat out of me. But the night that I did that first show in Corpus, Joe Blanchard pulled me to the side. And he said, "Can you walk with me to my car so I can leave?" So I said, "All right." So I walked him through the parking lot, and he had this nice Halliburton. And we get to his car. He opens up the trunk. He opens up the Halliburton, and there's just stacks of money, just 20s, 10s, 50s, stacks. And he gives me a bunch of money and says, "Here, go give this to Juan, who was the ring guy, and Juan will pay you for the ring for helping, and that's his money for refereeing." And so Juan Reynoso was a ring guy, but he was also the referee. He was also a wrestler.
Mhm.
So Juan was like Joe Blanchard's right hand guy. So he said, "Give Juan will give you your money, and the rest is for Juan for his work." So I said, "Okay." So, but that always, even to this day, that has stuck in my mind. Like you see Money in the Bank, WWE has Money in the Bank.
Mhm.
That briefcase they used, that's what Joe had.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean the same type, a metal briefcase, and it was just full of money. So so I get where the Money in the Bank comes from. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I get what they're, it has a significance to me.
Mhm.
So I go in the office Monday morning, and Joe Blanchard is like, "Hey Rudy, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Can we talk?" And one thing about Joe Blanchard is his door was always open for me, for anybody. "Hey, you got a couple of seconds, sir?" "Yeah, sit down." And so he said, "Aren't you supposed to be back at school?" And I said, "Yes, I'm supposed to leave yesterday." He said, "What happened? You missed your ride?" I said, "No." I said, I want to learn the wrestling business. I said, "I want to learn the wrestling business." I didn't say I want to be a wrestler. I said, "I wanted to learn the wrestling business." And you could have heard a pin drop. It was dead silence for was probably 30 seconds, probably 10 seconds, but it felt like an hour.
Yeah.
He just stared at me, and man, he just like let me have. Up to that point, it was always, "How are you doing, Rudy? How's it going? How you been? How are you working out? How did training go?" He stared at me and he just like, "Are you stupid?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, what did I say?" And, and man, he just like let me have it, man. He was like, "You're not gonna make no money doing this. You're gonna starve. Are you married?" "No, sir." "You'll never be married. And if you are, it won't last long. You'll never have kids. You're gonna miss birthdays. You're gonna miss anniversaries. You're gonna miss, this holidays. You're gonna be on the road. You're gonna starve. You're gonna sleep in your car. You're gonna blah blah blah." And he just like let me have it for again. It was probably 2 or 3 minutes, but it felt like
Hmm.
an eternity. And he goes, and then he says, "Is that what you want? Is that really what you want?" And uh, I said, "Yes."
Well, there you go.
I mean, I figured I would, if it didn't work out, I would go back to
Right.
school.
Yeah.
So, and that's just part of the. I didn't really think this out. So he looked at me and he says, "All right." So he opened up the one of the drawers to his desk. He pulled out a set of keys to go start mopping. And Mondays was when we did TV, so that's when the guys would start showing up like at noon. They'd do promos, and then Monday night we would do TV, and the place was like it smelled of beer and popcorn and hot dogs, and the guys would train there during the week, so it smelled of sweat, and it was just uh, nasty. So, and I'll use that because I had gotten into boxing for a little while, and I trained at a boxing gym, and same atmosphere, same. So I was like, all right. So there I was. My first day of actually working for the promotion was mopping up, and that's what I did. That's what. Do I regret it? Do I regret any of it? No, not at all. That was, I mean, uh, and I will say this: all the stuff that Joe told me, the starving, sleeping in the car, the holidays, and all that stuff he warned me about. He didn't lie to me. I mean,
Right.
I've missed a lot of. I have 4 kids. Can't even keep track. Um, and I missed a lot of their birthdays. I missed my son being born. I mean, I went. I'm not gonna say I went through hell, but um, all that stuff happened. And do I regret it? I wish I could have been there for my son's birthday. I just wasn't. But uh, no, I don't regret it. And it's been a crazy ride. I've come across a lot of good people. I've come across a lot of bad people. I've had some great experiences. I've had some tough times, but I've learned from them all. I've learned, and so now I have a wrestling school, and I'm able to pass these experiences to those guys. And some of them look at me like I'm stupid, like that really didn't happen. But and then months later, like Brian Kinder's a good one. Like months later, they'll come up to me and say, you know what? I gotta live in the I gotta live on the floor in my apartment because I don't have furniture, or I had to sleep in my car because I got kicked out of my apartment, or yeah, join the club, buddy. You know. So I mean, I'm sure Brian shared some stories also, but yeah, I mean, the experiences that I had growing up, and to this date, I share with my guys just to be very open with them, and a lot of guys to it nowadays are like, man, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Wrestling today is a lot better than it was in the '80s.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's we've talked about this before with other people. It's a lot easier to get into than it ever has been. Social media has made it just a cake to find a wrestling school, but the that's a good and bad thing. You know,
Right.
considering you know everybody's a promoter, everybody's a trainer now it seems, but they're not all credible trainers.
Exactly. Everybody wants to be trainers. Everybody has credibility. Wink, wink. Um, what's funny though is that like years ago, I was at a one night one day we did training in the afternoon. It was me, Ken Tins, Manny Fernandez, Chavo was there, and then we left and we did a show, and we're standing outside the dressing room door, and a guy walks up to Manny, or it might have been Ken Tins, I don't remember who it was, and he said, "Hey man, I want to get into wrestling." And so they're like, and so the guy was like, "Who do I talk to?" And so they said, "I don't know." And when I heard him say that, I was like, "Wait a minute, we just trained." I'm walking to my gym. I'm thinking to myself, we just trained earlier this afternoon. What are you talking about? You don't know. I didn't say anything, but that's what I was thinking to myself. So the guy was like, "Well, how'd you get in?" And so uh, I think it was, like I said, I think it was Ken Tim. So he's like, "I don't know, man. They just pulled me off the street and started, beating me up and stuff." So the guy was like, "Oh, well," and then he walked off. So I was like, "Why didn't you tell him to come by where we train at tomorrow morning or something?" And so he said something like, "So what if you would have started wrestling?" And I was saying to myself, "That's not a bad thing." He goes, "So maybe he takes my spot. Maybe he takes your spot. Do you want to lose your spot? You just got in. Do you want to lose your spot right away?" And I started thinking about it like, "Oh no, 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 I don't want." So
Right.
yeah, so back then it was like so secretive. It was so, and Manny and Ken Timms and those guys were some of the best guys that I was able to train with. Chavo was one of the best guys I trained with. But a guy sitting there saying, "Where do I get trained at?" They're telling him, "We have no idea. I don't know."
Right.
So, what made you want to become a trainer? What gave you the passion to do this part?
So when I was in high school, when I was in going to college, my major was physical education and uh, physical education. That was it. I was going to be a high school football coach. So through the years, and I've always paid attention to detail, and I've always watched how guys did stuff, and so like when I broke in, I had Manny Fernandez and Chavo and Tully helped me a little bit. The Bushwhackers, who were the sheep herders, in Eric Embry, Ken Timms. I mean, I had a lot of different Luthez. I had a lot of different guys that, you know, I'm not gonna say they were my trainers, but they were like, try this, try that, and everybody had their own different way of doing stuff. But it was always led to the same conclusion, to the same whatever. So when I got into wrestling, I figured my training days, my football coach days were over. Um, so we were training with a guy named Larry Lane, and so I started in January of 1982, and so by April, May, by June, Larry Lane left for whatever reason. So Joe Blanchard asked me if I could run the school, and I had no clue. I just knew, okay, we're gonna do squats, we're gonna do push-ups, we're gonna roll around, we're gonna wrestle, we're gonna grapple, we're gonna. That's all I knew. Um, and then he sent me and another guy to different middle schools to teach wrestling. And so I just used stuff that I was taught, and showed the students. We did give us like gym class for the whole day, and so every class came in, we just do stuff that we did at the wrestling place. Um, and then so as the years went by, I did, you know, and we're talking, 80s, 90s wrestling. So
Mm-hmm.
I did the deal where, hey, you want to be a wrestler, meet me at this place. And guys were like, well, how much is it? Well, it's $2,500, but if you pay $500 up front, and then once they got in the ring, then I never beat anybody up. I never got physically aggressive with anybody. I never punched nobody, but I made them do a bunch of squats, a bunch of push-ups, a bunch of crunches, a bunch of sit-ups, a bunch of jump rope, and blew them up, and then wrestled with them the old school way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would come back maybe once or twice, but then they'd quit. Well, I never got the $2,500, but I did get $500.
Yeah.
So that kind of supplemented my income, and that was the way things were done back then.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like once every now and then. It wasn't like, I didn't have an ad in the paper, or I didn't have nothing on Facebook because there wasn't internet then. It was just word of mouth stuff.
Right.
So I had an issue at a show in October of '98 with the promoter, not the promoter, the booker, and pay of all things. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit. I quit the business. Screw this. I don't want to do this no more. This is 1998. I started in 82. This is long enough. I'm done. So I walked out. I gave the promoter, the booker, the money back, the envelope, and drove home. And that was it. That was a Saturday night. Monday morning, I went to go get a job at a local warehouse. Uh, I was hired Wednesday. Uh, I go to work the following Monday. That's my first day. But then Thursday afternoon, I'm sitting at home watching TV, and you'll hear. I don't know if you've heard this old saying or not, but there's no saying. Every time you try and step out, they'll pull you back in.
Mm-hmm.
So I stepped out. I'm sitting on my couch Thursday afternoon watching Oprah or something. I don't remember what it was. And my phone rings, and it's Shawn Michaels. And I knew of Shawn. We just weren't friends.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we never barbecued. Shawn actually grew up like 20 minutes from where I grew up. We're here. We're both from San Antonio. We both admired Telly. Our paths had never crossed. I picked up a guy named Ken Johnson one day from training, and he was training Sean at that time. And I asked him, "Who is that guy?" And Ken was like, just some punks named Sean, blah 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 blah, whatever. And so lo and behold, years later, Sean becomes this star. So I'm sitting at home, and my phone rings, and this is, I didn't have a cell phone, so it was an actual Had to get up from my couch, walk over to the phone, and hello. And he's like, "Is this Rudy?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Rudy, this is Sean." And I'm like, "Sean who?" And he said, "Shawn Michaels." And F you, click. And I hung up the phone because at the time, the guys that I hung out with were known to do pranks like that. We're known to, you know, crank call guys and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
out of nowhere, I get this call. I quit the business, and out of nowhere, the biggest star in wrestling, one of the biggest stars in wrestling, calls me and says, "Hey, this is Shawn Michaels." Man, screw you. So I hung up. This happened 3 times. He
Oh my
he
God.
called me back. Rudy, yes, this is Sean. Click. Rudy. The phone rings again. Rudy, yes. Don't hang up. Who is this? It's Sean. Sean who? Shawn Michaels. F you. Click. So so finally he, a couple of minutes goes by now. The phone rings again. Hello. Now I'm irritated. Hello. Ruining Oprah. He's like, do not hang up on me, please. I go, who is this? He goes, it's Sean. I go, who is this? He said, it's Sean. I go, Sean who? He goes, Sean Hickenbottom.
There you go.
I was like, all right, what's up? He goes, are you busy tomorrow? And I said, no. I quit the business. So the guy the booker that I had the issue with was Jose Lothario, and Jose ran a show on Fridays here in San Antonio. So Sean said, can you go by the wrestling tomorrow night? I'll meet you there about 8 o'clock. And so again, I hung around guys that like to prank guys. So I was like, I'm not wrestling, and so I'm not asking to wrestle. I just want to talk to you. I said, I'm not taking my gear with me, because you hear the old, take your gear with you where you go. So
Mhm.
so I'm like, I'm not taking my gear with me. He says, that's fine. I just want to talk to you. So I said, all right. So we hung up. Friday night comes. I go to the building. Jose's at the front door. He's like, what do you got? What are you doing here? And I said, I came to talk to Sean. And he laughs and he says, you have your gear? I said, nope. And right there in the back of my head, I thought, this is a rib. I said, nope, just came to talk to Sean. And he goes, well, he's not here yet. So I was like, well, I'll just wait for him. So I went and sat in the back row of the chairs, and the matches started, and late as usual. And so the first match went on, second match goes on, third match goes on. I'm thinking, man, these guys got me. Jesus Christ. So I figured in the middle of the third match, I'm going to get up and walk out. So right when I was getting ready to get up, the match had been on for like 5 minutes or so. All of a sudden, the whole crowd, there was probably maybe 50 people there. I don't know. It wasn't huge, but nonetheless, everybody got up and ran to the front door. And so I look, and so it was a place. The clientele were a lot of Hispanic people. So everyone is 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and then here comes 6 foot Sean. He's stands over everybody, and I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
what's he doing here? So he gets through the crowd. So the guys are going to stop wrestling. He gets through the crowd and he walks by me, but he doesn't say anything to me. So I was like, man, I got ribbed. I know I got ribbed. And so I'm getting ready to walk up because everybody. I'm getting ready to walk out because everybody's starting to go to their chairs. So I figured in all the commotion, I'll just head to the door. Then I feel a tap on my shoulder, and he says, "I'll be right back." And I was like, "Oh, what the f?" I'm like, "Holy shit!" So he walks in the dressing room, does whatever he does, comes out, we sit down, and how you been and how's it going and stuff. Like we've been friends for years. I mean, Sean, whatever you guys may have heard about him or read about him or whatever was out there about Sean was completely false. Very approachable. I mean, we talked like we'd known each other for years. That's why I said in the beginning we didn't know each other when we grew up. We're from two different parts of we're he grew up on an Air Force base, and I grew up out in the middle of San Antonio somewhere. Um, So and we talked, hey Ben, how hey, whatever happened with this guy, whatever happened to that guy, and so we talked for about 20, 30 minutes, and kids were walking up and asking for his autograph, and then finally Sean said, "Look, I'm talking. Can you please give me some time?" And so he was prioritizing our conversation. So I figured this might
Wow.
be kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
So then he says, "What would you think about running my school or help run my school?" And I was like, "I didn't know you had one." He goes, "I don't." This was like October of '98. So he's like, "I don't." He goes, "But I'm going to start a school early part of next year, March or April or something." And I said, "Yeah, I guess. I mean, what do what do you want me to do? What do you want?" He goes, "It's going to be you, Jose, and Ken Johnson." And so back in the day, Jose gets credited for training Sean, but Ken Johnson is actually the guy that got in the ring with him, took the bumps, and did all
Hmm.
the physical stuff with him. But
Mm-hmm.
Jose gets the credit. Again, an old school way of doing stuff. So uh, I was like, "Look, me and Jose have an issue, and I'm not sure." He goes, "You won't deal with Jose, you'll deal with me." And I was like, "All right, sure."
Wow.
Yeah. So he goes, "All right, I'll keep in touch." He gave me his number, wrote it down on a piece of paper. Again, we had no cell phones back then. So wrote it down, gave me his number, and that was a whooping stuff like that, and putting them on the truck and shipping them out. And I was making, like I said, $12 an hour. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week. Um, I would work from, I don't know, 8 to 5, for a month, and then 5 to whatever, for a month, and then whatever to 8 the next month. Every month we rotated shifts.
Ooh, that'd be rough.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I hated it because
Hmm.
you couldn't get a sleep pattern. You couldn't,
No.
you know. So the money was good. I mean, I was making 600, 700, $800 a week. I was getting paid weekly. The
Right.
money was good, but um, I was up for a raise after 3 months, um, and I didn't get it because uh, the manager's wife's cousin's nephew, something or other, neighbors, you know, dog keeper or whatever. He was there and he needed a raise, so he got a raise before I did.
Wow.
And yeah, still, stupid stuff like that. So
Hmm.
when that happened, and then there's some other instances like that, that just infuriated me. But it was my job. So Sean called me like around April of '99, and he says we're going to get started in 2 weeks. I said all right, and it just so happened to be where I was going in like at from midnight to or 11 to 8 or something like that or whatever it was. And so that gave me time to train because we're doing training in the evening from 7 to 9 or something, and that gave me time to go home, take a shower, and all that stuff. So that worked for a month, and I was tired. I ain't gonna lie, I was tired, but I enjoyed it. That was the first group we had, and everything was cool. So then they switched my hours to the morning time, and that was still cool.
Hmm.
Um, then my hours were gonna get switched to whatever
Second
five
shift.
to
Yeah.
12 or whatever it was, and so that was gonna conflict with training. So I quit. I quit. I
There you go.
I, I quit the warehouse, and we had just bought a house. My kids, me and my kid's mom, and I mean, we just bought a house, and so after 2 weeks of working just at Sean's school, we're eating, and she said, "What time are you gonna work at?" And I was like, uh, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you haven't. Did you get fired?" I'm like, from where? She said, from the warehouse. I said, no, I didn't get fired. Me? No. You
Th-
crazy?
You didn't. I mean,
I didn't
technically.
get fired.
Right.
So she said, well, I said, well, so we'll talk about this when we're finished eating. So we finished eating and what have you, had dish, cleaned the dishes and all stuff. We sat at a table, and so she by this time she knew something was up. So she goes, all right, so what's going on? I said, remember I told you, a while back, Sean had called me about working for him, and she said, yes. I said, well, I'm working for Sean, and she said, okay, and so I quit working at the warehouse, and the first thing she asked was, "What's Sean paying you?" Whew. So I was like, "He's paying me $250 a week. A week." She was like, "What?"
Mhm.
I like, "He's giving me $250 a week," and she's like, "That's like $1,000 a month."
Right.
I go, "Yeah." She goes, "What was your last check at? Wait, what were you making at HEB and the warehouse?" And I said, "I think my last check was like 800
Oh.
or 9, something like that." And she goes, "And that's what you were getting a week?" I said, "Yes." So here comes another blast. This time it wasn't Joe Blanchard, it was my kid's mom. "Are you stupid? What the F? What the F's wrong with you? Ha, 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 ha." And she just went off. "We just bought this house. What are we going to do? Oh my God." And she just, the crying went on and stuff. And I let her vent because it was, when you think about it, it was a dumb decision. But I let her vent. I let her get everything out, and then she stared at me, and I just said, "Look, I hated it there. I hated it. Simple as that. I hated
Mhm.
it." She goes, "But you're not even making the same." I said, "I know, but I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I have no issues. I have saved my money, so we do have some money saved up. I'm assuming, and Sean never said this. I was assuming, um, eventually we'll get to the point where I'm making more money than the warehouse."
Mhm.
In the back of my head, I'm saying, "I hope.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
we. I hope we do anyway." So we almost went through. We weren't married, but we almost went through divorce court or separation court, or whatever. And all right, well, you know what you're doing. This is your deal. If anything happens, it's going to be on you. And so I always made a point that my kids, never, they never needed anything. They always had
Right.
good clothes. We always had food on the table, So, and it was a struggle, but that was it. I started working with Sean. So that's how I didn't ask to be a wrestling trainer. It just kind of like got thrown at me. When Sean went back to work at WWE, I didn't ask him to give me the school. He just told me one day. He came in one day and said, "We got to talk." And I said, "What's up?" And so after training, he said, "I'm re-signing my deal with Vince." I said, "Oh, great." He goes, "So I'm going to close the school." And I'm thinking to myself, "That's not so great."
No. Nope.
So he goes, "Unless you want it." And it was like 2 rings, a sound system, some weights. And I said, how much? What are you asking for it? And what am I going to pay you? What do what's this worth? He said 10 grand. And he slapped me on the back and he walked out. And so I was like, holy shit. Well, long story short, I didn't pay 10 grand. He just gave me the school.
Wow.
He just, when I asked him about
That's
it,
amazing.
yeah, when I asked him about it, I said, well, 10, I don't have $10,000, but he goes, I was just messing with you. I'm just playing with you. Don't, it's yours. And so, you know, like a few months later, Sean was with a group called Cornerstone Church, and he was one of their mentors there. And so he came in one day and he said, "Are you using the weights?" I mean, he had bought brand new like Gold's Gym stuff, brand new weights. And the guys even in the days when Sean was running school, the guys hardly used them. Um, So he asked me, "Are you guys using the weights?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Can I donate them to the church?" I said, "Sure." I said, "Sean, I never paid for them. They're not mine. I've always looked at them as being yours. I always, even though nobody used them, I always kept them clean and always kept upkeep and all that. I said, they're yours. So whatever you want to do." So he came in one day with a bunch of kids from their kid camp, and they took the weights and stuff.
Wow.
So no, I never asked to be a trainer of wrestling or anything. I It was kind of like just you know offered, and I took it.
And still going strong today.
Still 22, 23 years later, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
you're still in San Antonio training?
Still in San Antonio. Still got guys that I'm as the years. But I'll be very honest. As the years go by, it's getting harder and harder to deal with the entitlement guys have today. Even like Brian Kendrick will come in every now and then, and like we'll go eat after. He's like, "Jesus, were we this way?" No, man. You guys came in. You guys busted your ass. You worked hard,
Mm-hmm.
and you had goals, and y'all went on to achieve your goals. But now, guys kind of it's like they're expecting something to happen,
Yeah.
not willing to put the work in, and
I'm
it's
not.
just not like that.
No. I've noticed that with like smaller shows or something, people have that mentality. When I started, I worked with Gabe Sapolsky, like behind the scenes. So I'm
I
used to
know Gabe.
people coming in, thank you, sir. What can I do? Training, and it's like people that are not, let's say, that level, like that aren't ready for that yet. They're just so entitled and like they're the big fish in the small pond, and you should do this.
Sure.
And yeah.
Like we would speaking of Gabe, I when Ring of Honor opened up,
Mm-hmm.
I knew Rob, I knew Doug Gentry, I didn't know Gabe, but I called up Rob and I said, "Hey, can we get on the show?" And Rob said, "I can't guarantee anything, but if you guys are here, I'm sure we can find something for you."
Mm-hmm.
So we packed up a van with a bunch of guys, which was Brian Kendrick, Michael Shane, Hernandez, Masada, and a couple other guys, and we drove to Philadelphia to be on those Ring of Honor shows.
Hmm.
Now, if I ask these guys, "Hey, y'all want to go to Tampa for WWN wrestling?" Or, well, how many hours is that in the van? How are we going to get there? Who's paying for gas? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, when we went to Ring of Honor, we didn't have
Mm-hmm.
GPS. We had MapQuest,
Mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
MapQuest every now and then took you the wrong way. So it took us like 30 hours or something to make it to Philadelphia. And it's because it took us the wrong way sometimes. We are going from Nashville back to Memphis after we passed Memphis an hour ago. We're like, wait a minute, what's
Whoops.
yeah?
So with you go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, go ahead, go.
So with that being said, um, what if you had any advice to give to anybody that wants to get into professional wrestling or is just starting out? What would be the number one thing you would tell them?
Research. Do your research. Don't, and I'm even throwing my name in there. And don't just come to me because that's the guy that trained Brian Danielson. That's it. No, man. Do your research. Look up, look up different people. Look up Al Snow. Look up OVW. Look up Joe Blow down the street. What? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that guy, or who is that guy that's training people? Who?
Hmm.
What did he produce? What did he? I get a lot of guys that come to my place and they're like, "I want to be a wrestler and whatever." I went to this guy's place to train, and I was there for 6 months, and nothing ever happened. And I'm like, "Well, who is he?" "I don't know, just some guy that was training." "Well, that was your first mistake, man. Just look up the guys. Just so do your research, ask questions. I'm not saying I know everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but normally if you don't know the person or you never heard of them, that's not a good sign. But then again, if it wasn't for Sean reaching out to me, nobody would have heard of me back in 1998. I was just an indie guy,
Right.
but Sean knew me from doing stuff with WWE and whatever. I would go in and be the jobber. Oh my god. But I a lot of the guys I got familiar with, like Razor Ramon and those guys, uh, Randy Savage and Poffo and all those, and um, it got to where you would show up to do the jobs, and guys would pull you to the side. Kurt Hennig would pull you to the side. Hey, brothers, you work with me, and that was a big thing. That was because they knew they could get in the ring with you and not have to worry about botches or
Right.
missing something or getting hit too hard, or they knew you knew what you were doing. So like one of the trivia questions I asked guys, it's kind of hard to look it up to verify it, but I'm telling you, the first match Sean had when he turned on Marty Jannetty was with me.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and it was, and all we did, you see people going over matches and stuff like that, and all Sean said was, "This is my first match. I don't know how it's gonna go. Me and Sherry are gonna go out there. Just give me time to get my shit over, to get my gimmick over."
There you go.
And that's all he said. And all right, so that told me to. He gives me something, boom, I take my bump. I'll sell it for as long as I have to. When he's ready, he'll come get me, or we'll continue doing whatever. And I mean, that's all we talked about. We didn't sit in the back like, all right, I'm gonna grab your hair and then you're gonna kick me in the nuts and then I'm gonna poke you in the eyes and we're gonna do 3 suplexes, and it was nothing like that,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, so, Sean basically put his stamp of approval on me, and that got me going. Other than that, man, I mean, you know, guys just need to do their research. And I hate it because, like I said, some kids will show up and they're like, this guy screwed me over and he took my money, and I'm like, I feel bad for you, man, but you know,
But did you do your research, right?
yeah. And I mean, and I'll tell guys, this is what I charge. I'm like, well, I paid this guy. Well, I mean, you may have paid this guy X amount of dollars, but you didn't pay me. And I mean, I feel like a jerk saying that, but like I said, you gotta look up the people you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely. So you're standing out in front of your gym right now, right?
Yeah, we do training Mondays through Friday, and
Awesome.
yeah,
Fantastic. So this is the point of the show where we give you the opportunity to plug anything that you would like to plug, maybe your gym or.
yeah. So I mean, I'm not, contrary to what a lot of people may say or believe, I'm not a selfish guy. So yeah, I'll plug the Texas Wrestling Academy. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm on Facebook, Texas Wrestling Academy. If you're in the California area, uh, Brian Kendrick has his wrestling school. Look up Brian Kendrick. I'm not sure I know he's on Twitter. If you're in the Kansas City area, Moonshine Mantell has his wrestling school. Those are guys that I train. So, I mean, that's why I'm endorsing them, because I know they know what they're doing. Moonshine has his wrestling school. Moonshine Mantell has wrestling school out in, I believe, the Kansas City area. I mean, but find, I know, like we said earlier, it's so easy to get into pro wrestling nowadays. But if you're going to make the effort and you're very serious about doing this stuff, find the right people that'll take the time and train you and teach you and be patient with you, work with you, uh, guide you. There's guys out there that will tell you things that you want to hear, but you don't need guys like that. You need guys that will tell you things that you need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not always be like I said, what you want to hear, but it's going to help you in the long run.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
From my experience, I can't tell you how many times a guy told me, Jesus Christ, you suck, you know,
Right.
and I did, but I didn't take offense. Like, you're so mean to me. I was like, well, what did I do wrong? And again, I'm not saying I'm Ric Flair or anything like that, but I became a decent worker where, here I am, a guy that had no interest in pro wrestling, growing up, and here I am running a world-renowned
Mm-hmm.
wrestling school. Yep.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for everything that you've done for professional wrestling and continue to do for professional wrestling.
And thank you, Morty, for having me on. Happy New
Yeah.
Year, guys.
Thank you
Happy New
too.
Year.
Go Cowboys.
Hey everybody, it's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you on the next.
Developmentally speaking.